and welcome to Words on the Streets of COP30 here in Belém. Today we're also looking at the issue of adaptation because the COP president has decided to take adaptation for the second day in the COP today. And we're wondering how communities are coping with the issues around climate change, with the issues of transition into from fossil fuels to renewable energy. You will be wondering how communities are coping, how with these issues, and we'll be speaking to different communities to know how they are adapting with the issues with climate change and energy. I am Kome Ojomo from Belém. Let's go talk to people on the streets of COP30.
At this COP, if they want to change and to make a big change, it's better to listen to the voices of the marginalized communities like ourselves around the world. Because in the indigenous ways, the indigenous systems, the indigenous wisdom of our ancestors, we become resilient. Like, we're not starving in Venda. There is climate change, but we have a way of working with the soil to produce food in that thing they call agroecology, smart agriculture, what. But it's our indigenous way of life. And we are raising the voices that the fossil fuel, especially in our area where they want to make the special economic zone, which is called Mosina Makado Special Economic Zone. This is a huge collapse which we are seeing that it is coming, and it is also going to destroy our resilience on water security and food security and air quality. Because this special economic zone, continuing with the burning of coal, cooking stones, doing all things of the mining, this is where it will destroy our livelihood, tangible and intangible. But this gathering of COP, can they lead us? Listen to the voice of the local community, because we are the first affected, but through indigenous knowledge, we become resilient to climate change.
Communities are suffering. Then we need to give the world a new direction. So only.
So do you think that this COP will help community to give direction to the world?
The COP30 is very important because in here we are discussing about the climate change.
I think adaptation is essential if you're talking about the energy transition, because if you have extreme weather events, and beyond these extreme weather events, if you don't adapt your energy infrastructure, you are going to be left with even more vulnerable communities, because energy is the first thing that goes in extreme weather events. So as a sector, we are taking adaptation very seriously, how we are going to fortify our power plants to ensure that they are safe even after the devastating impacts of climate change, and also to support surrounding communities where they will essentially need this critical power after these extreme events. Within adaptation is a very broad agenda topic, and within that, energy and infrastructure is a specific negotiation stream. So there are definitely conversations happening at COP around these conversations, but looking at the energy sector itself, it has taken notice of these problems of extreme weather events and their impact on energy infrastructure, and the industry is also taking note. But is there enough synergy between the policies that are being created over here and the energy sector themselves? That is yet to be seen depending on the outcome of this COP.
Going by what adaptation means, I think the global south are just tired of this, narratives over and over again. People in the frontline communities in Nigeria, where I come from, and of course in the entire African continent, seems to have exhausted their coping capacity. And to what extent, or how far can they still continue to adapt when outrightly the causes of climate crisis could be abandoned? We know the politics behind climate crisis. We know those who are smiling to the bank at the expense of frontline communities. But year in, year out, people gather for conference of parties to advance interests that will only service their continued existence in the venture of exploitation. It's a repeat of the model that we continue to make us subservient as a people. And then there's a big question on the capacity of the African state to even measure infractions. If you cannot measure infractions, how can you demand for compensation? How can you begin to cope for what you can actually avoid? I mean, what are the existing mechanisms available for us as a continent that can detail the level of progress that we are making. And the big question about the quorum that is expected of the African group of negotiators. Are they speaking with one voice? And what interest are they servicing? I hope at the expense of the people in the frontline community who are often being denied the benefit of expression, this conversation this time around will speak to their needs and of course meet their demands and allow them inclusion in the policy framing, that will advance their interests. We are not also unaware of the fact that, African positions are being highly influenced by suggestions from elements outside Africa but doing businesses in Africa. And we are tired of this colonialist mentality that has abandoned the rights and dignity of an African people and making them subservient to the mercies of corporate interests who are always smiling to the bank.
And we've heard from people on the streets of COP30 what adaptation means to them. It is very glaring that people have every position. They know how to adapt to the situation they find themselves. But then this is a message to the COP presidents and the people in negotiation room. Do not just sit there to put profits over people, but this is the right time to improve the livelihoods of people through cutting climate change issues, address the issues around climate change that would benefit people who live in rural communities, that finds way to adapt to the situation they find yourself. Here from the streets of COP30 here in Belem, I am Kome Ojomo.